John McClain appears on talk radio in segments in Houston, where he resides, Nashville, Knoxville, Las Vegas, San Antonio, Austin, and here has been with us with our show when Paul and I were on the radio since 2010, and now with the podcast 365 Sports. John, the end of that game last night, I immediately thought about Leon Lett when the Cowboys had the punt block and then they had the illegal touch. What was your thought about? Did you go straight to Leon Lett too?
Let's see. After I dozed off and kind of woke up a little bit, and I saw that poor guy bounce off his shoulder, and of course I thought about him. But that was a good Cowboys team. This team's terrible. And and I did feel sorry for him. You know, you're trying to make a play, and they go over that kind of stuff in practice. They go over at meetings, telling players, get out of the way. Fossil screaming on the sideline. Everybody's screaming, but it happens so fast. And I actually felt sorry for the Cowboys. You know, Joe Burrow had no business, as well as he's playing, for that game to be that close. You know, Joe Burrow versus Cooper Rush versus Joe Burrow, it's a mismatch. But the one thing that I think is interesting, watching the Cowboys down the stretch, is they're finally getting some production out of Rico Dowdle behind a bad offensive line. They did not get it when the teams counted more during the season. So are they going to believe in him again after he's produced a little bit? Or are they going to make an effort to go out and get a running back like if Ashton Jeanty is available when they pick in the first round? And they blew it last offseason. Now we'll see if they blow it again or if Dowdle can reward their faith in him. And I'll say this about losing. Every team that's not in a playoff race, and the Cowboys are not, every time you lose, it just enhances your draft spot. And that's important because it can be the difference in a Micah Parsons and a Quincy Carter. So Cowboy fans who are so down right now, just keep thinking about the draft.
Well, John, I don't think anybody told the Cowboys, they're not going to stop trying, but every time they win, I get a little depressed that they're not going to get an Ashton Jeanty or something. But the issue, this is the way I see it, and this is not a knock on Rico Dowdle. It's more a knock on their organizational preparedness and the way that they look at things. If Rico Dowdle is back next year and signed to a long-term deal before the draft, that's a bad thing for the Cowboys. They're not going to get any better if that's their plan of action. Now, if they draft somebody and bring Rico Dowdle back together, that's better, but that's not normally how they do things. If they fall in love with Rico Dowdle because of 3 or 4 good games, which is the Miles Austin curse, they're just going to do the same thing that they've done again.
Well, I think that all Cowboy fans wouldn't be a bit surprised if that's what happened. And but I'll say this, they need to stockpile some talent. They need to have a good talent where they get multiple players to contribute, multiple starters eventually. And the way you start that off is with a high draft choice in a draft that is has a lot of players at a bunch of positions besides quarterback.
John, Kansas City is winning, and my God, that's the whole reason you play the games. And who knows, as long as they get the last possession or within 7 points or maybe even 8 or 2, they're going to win if Patrick Mahomes, of course, is healthy. Have you ever seen anything like it, though? It's almost every single week. They're down 2, they're down 6. They have the ball at the end of the game, and Mahomes leads them down to whatever the hell they need.
It's pretty clear that God has become a Chiefs fan because there's no way you can explain what's happened to that team. And it's not that they're winning ugly. No, they're winning on huge breaks. Now, you create your breaks or your opponents create your breaks for you. Remember last year, they lost 6 games in regular season, and everybody thought, well, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. Then they flipped the switch, and they did. And this year, I don't know if they're capable of flipping a switch. These breaks that they keep getting at the end, is it going to be impossible to sustain once you get in the playoffs? But they, to me, are not a great team. They got a great quarterback. Mahomes just had a rating of 88. That'll usually get lost, and they won the game. He's not first-team All-Pro quarterback this year. That's going to be Josh Allen, but that doesn't mean squat in the playoffs. And it is amazing the way they're winning. But right now, to me, Detroit is the best team in the NFC. They could still lose the division to Minnesota. They play the last game of the season. And Buffalo is, to me, the best team in the AFC, but now they could lose 2 in a row, losing to Detroit. And who would have thought Pittsburgh, with nobody believing in Russell Wilson other than Mike Tomlin and his offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who deserves a lot more credit for Russell Wilson's performance than Mike Tomlin. Tomlin just made the decision, but Arthur Smith calls the plays and helps coach him. So right now, to me, Mike Tomlin would be coach of the year. And the Steelers, the way they play defense, they can run. Russell Wilson's played in bad weather. He knows what it's like. They're going to be hard to beat in the playoffs.
What do you think of the renaissance of Sam Darnold in Minnesota?
I think you talk about timing, Craig. My goodness, he signed a 1-year, $10 million deal to be the bridge quarterback for rookie J.J. McCarthy. Last year, he's in San Francisco. Didn't get to play a lot behind Brock Purdy. Had signed 1 year, $4.5 million, and finally it's paid off. J.J. goes down for the season. He has 28 touchdown passes, 5 on Sunday. There's no way Minnesota is going, I don't think, to commit a long-term contract to him that will require McCarthy to sit on the bench for multiple years. Or you try to trade McCarthy to a team that had him highly rated when he came out of Michigan this year. But it's a good problem to have, but I just don't see Minnesota giving him a 5-year contract for $40 million a year. You put him on the open market with all these desperate teams to get a quarterback with Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward as the top 2 prospects, and neither might be as good as the guys that came out this year. Sam Darnold, wouldn't you like to be his agent?
Absolutely. Speaking of that, the Heisman has their 4 finalists, Hunter and Genty, Dylan Gabriel, and Cam Ward. I know what Travis Hunter will be very, very quickly taken, whatever number that might be in the draft. Where do you see Genty, and where do you see maybe a Cam Ward, or what have you heard much about Dylan Gabriel when it comes to NFL teams?
Nobody's really high on Dylan Gabriel. He lacks size. But the other 2, they are. But so much can change in the off season. You got Senior Bowl workouts, combine, pro days, private workouts, lunches and dinners when players can woo NFL teams in their shorts and a T-shirt. But Ashton Jennings, when you see how great some of these running backs are doing this year, I think people will be more likely to draft him. And that kid's about to surpass Barry Sanders' record for yards. Now, he has more games, of course, but he's special. And if you're a Cowboy fan, you should want the Cowboys to get him because Rico Dowd couldn't carry his jock. And he can win games. He can score from anywhere on the field. It bothers me on the Heisman. Why do they take 4? Why can't they take 5 or 6? Cam Scatterby deserves to be there. Shadur Sanders should be a Heisman finalist, too. What does it hurt them to take 5, 6, or 10 up there?
You want my reasoning?
Yeah.
And I've asked that question before, and I'm fortunate enough to vote. But it's become all these shows have these lead-up shows that take already an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to the decision, the announcement. And so I think it is also something that TV wants to maybe downplay how many are invited, even if they're good enough to be there, because, my God, there's already so many features and interviews and all of that. And I just think that would blow their mind. They would, oh, my God, we got to do 2 more features. They could do the features, but I think it comes down to the time. And they have plenty of time because it lasts, it seemed like, for 2 hours.
They think they can do anything they want to do, and it just doesn't seem fair. How did they arrive at 4? And, yes, we know it's going to go to Travis Hunter, Ashton Jenney, but you still have a great time meeting all those Heisman Trophy winners. You might even get in one of those Heisman House commercials. And I think it's a great experience nobody would pass up. Even agents would recommend they go.
John, your beloved Baylor Bears are coming to visit you and play LSU in the Texas Bowl. How fired up are you for that?
I am. I'm writing a column about it on HoustonTexans.com for Friday. My first bowl game I went to was Baylor and LSU when I was a kid, and came to Houston. And Baylor people are buying up those tickets like crazy. I like the fact it's usually New Year's Eve, and I go because I've got responsibilities and the Gridiron Legends of Texas. We welcome a new class this year of Eric Dickerson, John Randall, James Francis, the great Baylor defensive end, Tony Franklin, the kicker. And so it's an honor to be part of that. And I'm told Baylor people are buying up those tickets like crazy. And, once the LSU fans who are from Louisiana, but we have more LSU fans in Houston than Baton Rouge. And once they figure out the game's in the afternoon, they get drunk all night after it, although they never need an excuse to get drunk. So I think they're going to have a huge crowd because Baylor people are fired up that Baylor's in the bowl, and I can't wait to watch it, averaging 41.3 points over those last 6 games. I can't wait to watch them, and what a coup it would be to go 9-4, finish with 7 wins in a row, and beat the hell out of LSU. And I think, what would it be if Texas played Arizona State and everybody's picking Texas to move on? And what if the Sun Devils from the Big 12 beat the Longhorns from the SEC? That would be not as important to me as Baylor winning, but it would be a close second.
Well, John, thank you very much for your show. I know that a lot of what could change the future when it comes to the college football playoff and who makes it, it sure wouldn't hurt, whether it's Texas or somebody else, if someone beat those type of teams rather than the same status quo that we see. Like when TCU upset Michigan, they need to do that every year, and now even more with 12 teams involved. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, guys. Take them Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us, 365 Sports.